We're live.
Okay.
I have no supervision. I'm supposed to have supervision with me, but no, it's good. It's good. It's good.
We feel like you were really capable. And we are looking forward to hearing what you have to say to us.
Perfect.
Thank you for being here, Representative Priestley.
Thank you. Representative Monique Priestley. So here to present, House Commerce tends to do strike all amendments. It's just how we roll. So this is here to share the strike all amendment from Commerce, which was voted out favorably 10-0-1. I'm just going to share super highlights and then I can actually show you side by side. So briefly, we added context, findings, and purpose, just explaining to basically the industry, the general public, anybody who's actually going to be affected by the law.
Representative, could I pause you for
Yes.
1 moment? I don't know if we said for the record that this is on H81.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Repair.
Yes. Perfect.
Yes.
H81, right to repair agricultural and forestry equipment. So added context, findings, and purpose to just basically tell people why is this important? Why should anybody care? How does this apply to people? And like why now as well? Remove duplicative definitions of trade secret because that already exists both in state statute and federal statute. Give more protection to the consumer to be able to make their own repairs. Condensed, there's just like an area of cost definitions where it was repeated twice and basically just condensed it for ease of use and reading. And then also addressed concerns from the industry as far as tampering with like safety mechanisms and emissions mechanisms. And that was actually taken pretty much word for word from the Colorado bill that had passed regarding ag equipment. In that it says like you can repair your stuff, but you still have to still have to adhere to local, state, and federal laws regarding emissions and safety and things like that. So I will share my screen. That's big enough, hopefully. So I also sent PDFs of both the original ag version and the edited amendments from the Commerce. So the ag one is on the left in my screen and is highlighted in red, and then the Commerce version is in green on the right. So I'll just go down. You'll see there's this whole chunk here that was actually just added to the bill itself. And I know David's going to do a walkthrough too. So yeah.
One thing that I was confused about, because since we worked on this, has Colorado passed an ag-specific right to repair? Because we were dealing mostly with their electric wheelchair.
Yeah, so they did. I think it was last week.
Oh, wow, really?
Pretty sure it was very recently, yeah. So, and it does not, so the forestry aspect would still be brand new, but I have like host permissions. It's asking, I don't want to press admit. See what Josie is trying to get in. So the ag portion did pass, and we throughout getting the testimony, it definitely went back and forth between the Colorado version and ours to try to see what made sense to add as well. So this findings and purpose, this wasn't actually something, the Colorado bill is actually pretty slim. So this was something that we added just because this is so new and because it's going to affect so many people in our state. So I don't know what's helpful if you want me to actually go in detail or just, I know David's going to do a walkthrough detail. So basically just saying that this is supporting the agricultural and forest sectors, which are really important to our economy in Vermont. References working lands. And the economic impact on our state. And I'm just going to keep going unless anybody wants to stop me. I don't want to take too much time. And then it also references, there's a chunk in here about the COVID-19 pandemic and how this just further, that period of time has just further kind of amplified our dependence locally on food and ag. Yeah, go ahead. Or, sorry. We'll take your job from you.
Question, and I'm going back to findings on line 13A, according to Working Land Center, President, 20% of Vermont. land is used for agriculture, while another 78% is forested. Just for accuracy, I think it's 74% is as of this winter and I don't know what percent is used for agriculture, but 78 and 20 means there's only 2% of land left, and some is wetlands, some are roads, some are cities, some are towns. So we want this always accurate in this matter, so I'm just bringing that up.
We can look into that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Representative O'Brien?
Just to add on, maple sugaring is generally considered agriculture. So it's like farming, it would sort of be a weird gray area with farming. So wherever those statistics came from, it'd be good to get them.
The Working Man's Enterprise Initiative.
Okay, cool. Let's see, going through here. Again, this is really just iterating how important all of this is. And then it highlights workforce shortages and how this will really help basically make it so that people can get stuff fixed faster and not having delays and things like that. Read all of this. If anybody wants to stop me, go ahead.
No, I think really.
Okay.
Just.
I know you're gonna do a full walkthrough, so, okay.
Full walkthrough, you
Okay,
guys,
cool.
like the substantive.
High level, okay, cool. So purpose, so they'll just read the purpose because that piece was important. The purpose of this act is to ensure equitable access to the parts, tools, and documentation that are necessary for independent repair providers and owners to perform timely repair of agricultural and forestry equipment in a safe, secure, reliable, and sustainable manner. We added the word forestry, so that wasn't in this piece. And added off-road. So that was something that came from industry as well. And then added the word principally. So not too many substantive changes there. Yeah.
Where did you add off-road? Just,
So this was,
okay, right, okay, sorry.
no, that's fine. And then the word principally to say that this is because we got into a tangent of, yeah, but you can use, other equipment not for agricultural purposes. So, otherwise, some just technical stuff like this subdivision versus section, expanded kind of on the definition of documentation. So that came out of, one thing that happened towards the end was, both, industry representatives as well as kind of the right to repair kind of advocates, got into a room, so Bridget, and the other side isn't here, but all got into a room, with, Chair Marcotte, Vice Chair Jerome, David Hall, and all basically was like, how can we compromise on this? So there's some little tweaks here that came out of that meeting. I'm gonna go down. I don't think there's anything huge going in here. There was, let's see, on the terms and limitations, this piece was, actually first, trade secret was removed. And then try to pair up here. Terms and limitations. So just added this line. So under the terms governing the sale or provision of parts, tools, and documentation, an original equipment manufacturer shall not impose on an independent repair provider or owner an additional cost or burden that is not reasonably necessary within the ordinary course of business or is designed to be an impediment on the independent repair provider or owner, including, and then it gets into the stuff that was already kind of there. And then I think there's just one more piece really that's, yeah.
I'm just a little curious about, so our draft number 5.1, does it get set back to 1 when it ends up in your committee and that's why you're at 4.1? I have a technical question, but I mean.
No, it's always interesting.
Well,
Okay.
question for David Hall.
Yeah, that's for David Hall. There we go. Thanks, Mike. And I'm just gonna go down, I think to the end here, probably. Yeah, I think probably just this. So on the green one, looking on the green one, this is the piece where, in the original kind of bill that we were working off of, it didn't have, emissions and safety really called out, and the Colorado one did. And that was an area that we really kept running into during a committee testimony. So we took that from the Colorado piece more or less and shoved it in here, and then edited it a little bit to like with the industry partners and advocates to get it in a manner that everybody kind of compromised.
Page just then.
This is like the last page, right where it gets into the effective, right before the effective date.
You're moving it around.
So you're just adding clarifying language to say that anything would have to be in compliance with already existing federal.
Exactly, because
Put it in there.
yeah, because the main like there was a lot of concerns around people either hurting themselves or like doing repairs that then somebody would get hurt on. So that was the safety piece, and or tampering with like turning off emissions regulation stuff that was throwing an error so that they couldn't get the machine to work. So like not allowing them to do that because then they're in violation of the Clean Air Act and stuff like that.
And is there a section in here that talks about liability that you added in or anything?
Just the safety piece, just this piece, yeah.
Great. And that's pretty much the
That
end.
was the main things, and then the date was adjusted to push it back since this is, it's gonna be pushed back till next year anyway, so.
Okay. Are there any questions from committee? Yes, Representative Graham.
What was the reason behind making it to 2025?
The 2023, it's actually not, like, it wouldn't actually even meet the 2023. It's because we're still on the House bill, it still needs to go over the Senate and stuff, so it's not actually gonna make it in time for what the bill has. So it would already be pushed back. So the idea is like push it back to 2025, and even then that might actually be too short depending on the timeline of the bill passing all the bodies it needs to.
Any other questions, committee? Representative O'Brien.
And was there any conversation about the training required for sometimes operating, I mean, knowing how to use the sort of complicated.
Yeah, I would say that definitely came up a lot. I would say like towards the beginning of our discussion, that definitely came up, and then it definitely came up in the written testimony that we received, and that was an area we started talking about, and then the concept was like that's another whole barrier to people being able to do the repairs if they're and also an opportunity that they could get like charged to have an authorized training that is then in order to touch their machines and stuff. So it was just like another barrier, and it gets into like, that's like, it's just another barrier. Yeah.
Regarding this last part, C2, so if you start with C, an independent repair provider or owner shall not, then it goes to access any function of a tool that enables the independent repair provider or owner to change the setting, so on and so forth. Does this mean that they will have access to do that, but they shouldn't? Or does this mean that they will not have access? Do you follow what I mean by that?
Yeah. Maybe that'd be best for David to address,
Yeah, I
but
think
yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to mix. We have two sections that address this. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Any other questions, committee?
There was one other piece I'm just remembering. Sorry, I don't want to make anybody dizzy. But it goes. I need to find the pairing here. Yes. So there was, you'll see in the original one, there was a piece about who can have access to the parts and the tools and the documentation. And we actually just, preserved this, but it's combined into just an easier thing. So because there was concern from the industry with the word like, more or less the order of these two, and that the owners can get things directly or through an authorized repair provider. And basically we're saying they can do, just making that a little bit more clear that those are two options, not one that has preference over the other, that kind of thing. So.
Great. Is everybody feeling clear on the shifts from House Commerce? Okay,
Yeah,
Representative Lipsky.
money, on that point, are the authorized distributors or dealers in a given state like Vermont, can we also get, we, the consumer, also get the parts or diagnostic equipment from them? Because
Yes, it's this,
because often the original manufacturer may be in Sweden or may be in Germany or often are, and it might take weeks just to get something shipped, whereas,
so you can, there was no change to like the relation, like the OEMs, original
Oh, yeah.
equipment manufacturers can still, so they could sell directly or they can still use their dealer. So really not like that relationship still, there's no like enforcing that they couldn't use that or anything like that.
Representative Rice?
So the way I'm reading it, it looks like directly has been removed and that it says instead an independent repair provider or owner through an authorized repair provider. So either independent mechanic or authorized dealer, but not directly to.
This might be dirty that I need David to do because we also have stuff. Basically, we have this section as well. So
And there it says or owner.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes. So this was more or less like the addressing the direct, and then this was like preserving dealer and OEM relationship, basically. I hope I said that.
And the dealers are feeling solid about this current language.
I would say as it came out of the joint, so that was deal representation, VPERG representation, repair.org representation, and then David Hall, and then our leadership all had a little conference, basically. Yes. And so that was, yeah. And then we asked for input from both sides this morning and there was no additional feedback, so.
Great. Well, committee, any closing thoughts or questions? Does this feel pretty clear?
No,
Like,
but I'm not sure that.
Yeah, I'm not doing like the full
Questions.
walkthrough, so it's a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
David will do the full, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be good.
Not to beleaguer you, Money, you know, when we were taking testimony over 2.5 weeks or more, there were two camps, quite frankly. There were the dealers, and then there were the advocates, the users. They were ag Vermonters, both in forestry and in ag, that felt quicker access was paramount to survival. But to go back to Heather, Vice Chair Supernaut's last inquiry to you, I'm trying to not be a Neanderthal. You sort of implied that all parties seem to feel less threatened, or that this new version actually made parties.
I would say a compromise was reached.
All right. And the fact that more of the parties, or all the parties were, kind of felt it was workable.
So on that note, what compromises did the right to repair parties feel they made? What did they come back on? What did they want and didn't get?
You know, I don't know if I can answer that on this.
It's okay. I don't expect you to answer everything, but it's an open question.
Yeah, and it might be worth, checking in, but, yeah. I can scroll back through this real quick, but I don't want to see people on the screen. I can try to like think back, but
I'm not seeing anything that really changes the structural integrity of the
Yeah.
original bill, to be honest. I'm just seeing
Yeah.
that it clarifies additional language and then it adds in the part about emissions, tampering and safety.
yeah.
That seems like the biggest portion of
And I don't
that.
think that really, like, that didn't feel controversial. Like, that, I would say the lack of it was controversial. But it wasn't controversial to add it in. It's from the advocate for this, like, right to repair.
Sure, but you included, just now regarding, what language did you pull out? Oh, the trade secret portion. Well, that's already in law. But so are these points at the end, right? You're already not supposed to mess with emissions. You're already not supposed to mess with safety. So that was already pretty clearly said in law. Why was that added and then trade secrets removed?
I guess like the trade secrets, I feel like actually are, and I don't know.
Spot again.
No, that's fine. I don't want to necessarily speak on behalf of the committee, but I feel like I
Right.
was paying attention to this piece, like the trade secrets piece. I personally didn't see value in adding that in because because one, it's already in state and federal, but it's also constantly, like the thing I brought up this morning is like, it seems like it's constantly also, as technology is changing, like that definition is adjusting. So to put it into our thing as a
To date it.
yeah, because like there was a request from one of the industry folks to add the federal, like the reference, but that's a law from like 1946, I think. And even just a quick Google search was like, this has been like referenced in 2011 and the case in 2017. And so it just felt like, why like add that in there if the courts are already going to reference, and David Hall said like if it comes up in court, they're already going to go to existing state and federal law. So that was an area. The limitations one, I felt like personally I advocated for putting that in there super early on, because it was just an area that like there was a definition, like I don't know, it's different. In that case, like it was something that was just kind of like targeted very easily in a way that like it doesn't seem like it hurts anything to just say that, like if that's a
Got it.
concern.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not going to be dated in time. It's.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah,
like
got it.
don't be unsafe and violate emissions, like clean air. I don't know.
Great. Any other questions, comments from committee? Okay. Representative Priestley, we thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And
We expecting David Hall?
not that I know of. No, I think